Congratulations! You won $500 million, the largest jackpot in your state's history. You're a 34-year-old warehouse manager from Ohio who buys 2 tickets a week out of habit. You bought this one on a Tuesday at the 7-Eleven near your apartment because you needed gum. You checked the numbers Wednesday morning before work. You had to check them 4 times because your hands were shaking too hard to read the screen. Then you sat down on the kitchen floor and you didn't move for 2 hours. But there's a problem. You don't actually get $500 million. Nobody tells you that part on the billboard. The lump sum option, the one you have to take if you don't want to be paid in installments over 30 years, comes out to about $230 million before taxes. After federal and state taxes, it's roughly $140 million. That's still life-changing money. That's still more money than your entire family has ever made combined, going back 4 generations. But it's not $500 million, and the gap between the number on the billboard and the number that hits your account is the first lesson you learn about being rich. The second lesson comes faster. You have a choice. You can claim the prize publicly, or you can claim it through a trust. In some states, you don't get the option. In yours, you do. Your lawyer, you have a lawyer now, hired 3 days after the win, recommended by a financial advisor you found through a Google search. Your lawyer tells you to use the trust. He says it 10 times in your first meeting. Use the trust, use the trust, use the trust. He shows you the data. Lottery winners who claim publicly are statistically more likely to be robbed, sued, harassed, kidnapped, and murdered. He gives you actual case files. A man in Florida who won $30 million and was shot in his driveway by a hitman his sister hired. A woman in Georgia who won $188 million and was found dead 2 years later under circumstances the police called suspicious. A teenager in West Virginia who won $315 million and lost his entire family, daughter, granddaughter, friends, to overdoses and accidents and lawsuits in less than a decade. You use the trust. But there's a problem with that too. The Lottery Commission still has to publish something. The town finds out. They don't know your name, but they know somebody local won. The 7-Eleven announces they sold the winning ticket. The 7-Eleven gets a $50,000 bonus. There are 6 7-Elevens in your county, but only the one you went to was open at 11 p.m. on a Tuesday, and within a week, half the town has narrowed it down to a list of about 40 regular customers. You're on that list. By the end of the second week, your sister calls and asks you point blank. You say no. You're not a good liar. She knows. You make her promise not to tell anyone. She promises. She tells your mother that night. So you move. Your lawyer has been telling you to move from day one. He says it the way doctors tell patients to quit smoking. You have to leave. You have to leave. You have to leave. You don't believe him until your apartment door gets knocked on by a stranger asking about an investment opportunity. You don't believe him until your tires get slashed in the parking lot. You don't believe him until somebody breaks into your storage unit and steals your old high school yearbooks looking for something to sell to a tabloid. You believe him after that. You buy a house in cash in a town 3 states away. You pay through an LLC owned by a trust owned by another LLC. Your name is not on any paperwork. The deed is buried under a stack of legal identities so deep that finding you would require a forensic accountant and a court order. You move in alone. You don't tell anyone where you went. You leave your phone behind for the first month. You buy a new one. You don't give the new number to anyone except your lawyer, your accountant, and your mother. The house is too big. You don't know why you bought a 5-bedroom house. You live in 2 of the rooms. The other 3 are empty. The first thing you do with real money is pay off everyone you love, not because they asked, because you want to. You pay off your mother's mortgage. You pay off your sister's car. You pay off your best friend's student loans. You set up a college fund for your nephew. You write a check for your father's medical bills, the ones he's been hiding from you for 3 years. The total comes to about $700,000. Your accountant doesn't blink. To him, it's a Tuesday. To you, it's the most money anyone in your family has ever spent on anything in human history. Your mother cries on the phone for an hour. Your sister sends you a photo of her and her kids in front of their newly paid off house. Your friend doesn't say much, but you can hear him breathing differently. For a week, you feel like the best version of yourself. For a week, you feel like winning the lottery was the most beautiful thing that ever happened. Then it happens. Your sister calls again 3 weeks later. Her car needs new brakes. She's not asking, she says. She's just telling you. You send her $5,000. You don't think about it. The next month, her oldest son needs braces. She's not asking, she says. She's just letting you know. You send her $8,000. The month after that, her husband's truck breaks down and they need a new one. And she's not asking, she says. Your friend, the one whose loans you paid off, sends you a text in May. He asks if you'd be willing to invest in a business idea he's had for years. He's been working on a deck. He attaches it. It's 8 slides. The numbers don't work. You're not an investor. But you understand the difference between a company that could make money and a company that exists because your friend has always wanted to own something. You tell him you'll think about it. He gets quiet. He stops texting first. 3 months later, you realize you haven't heard from him. Your father starts drinking again. You don't know if it's connected to the money. He's been sober for 11 years. Then suddenly he's not. Your mother calls you, crying, and asks if you've been giving him money directly. You haven't, but she tells you that he's been telling people you have. He's been showing up at his old bar with cash in his pocket and telling stories about his son, the millionaire. The stories aren't true. The cash is real. You don't know where he's getting it. You suspect, but you don't ask, because asking means knowing, and knowing means making a decision you don't want to make. Your phone has 47 unread voicemails. You stop checking them. They're all from people who used to know you. A high school teacher, a second cousin, a girl you went to prom with. A man who claims he was your father's friend in 1987. A woman who says she's the daughter of a man your grandfather did business with. The connections are thinner and thinner the further out you get. But every voicemail wants the same thing. And the worst part is that some of the requests are real. Some of these people genuinely need help. A woman with a sick kid. A man whose house burned down. A widow who can't pay her property taxes. You can't help them all. You can't even help most of them. The math doesn't work. 140 million sounds like infinity, but it's not infinity. And once you've paid your taxes and bought your house and locked the rest into investments that grow safely, the actual liquid amount you can give away is much smaller than people think. You write checks for some of them. You don't write checks for others. The ones you don't write checks for sometimes find your address. You hire a security service. You meet a woman in October. You meet her at a bookstore in your new town. She doesn't recognize you. She doesn't know about the win. She works at the public library. She has dark hair and a quiet laugh, and she tells you, on your third date, that she thinks she's going to like you. You start seeing her 3 times a week. You don't tell her about the money. 4 months in, you're starting to think you should. You're starting to think this might be real. You're starting to think you might love her. Then her cousin recognizes you at a barbecue. He saw a photo on a local news segment from your hometown, 8 months before, that you didn't even know had aired. He puts it together. He tells her at the barbecue. She comes back to the table where you're sitting, and her face is different. She asks you, in front of his cousin, if it's true. You say yes. She doesn't say anything else for the rest of the night. The next day, she's quiet. The day after that, she asks you why you didn't tell her. You try to explain. You tell her about the cases your lawyer showed you. You tell her about the people who tried to find you. You tell her you wanted to wait until you knew it was real. She listens. She nods. She says she understands. She breaks up with you a week later. She doesn't tell you why exactly. She tells you it's complicated. She tells you she can't be the kind of person who's always wondering if her boyfriend is being honest with her. She tells you she's not interested in being a footnote in your money story. You sit in your truck in the library parking lot for 40 minutes after she walks away. You don't cry. You just sit there. The radio is playing some old song you don't know. You can't remember how to drive home. You go back to the empty house. The lights are off. The fridge hums. You sit on the couch and you stare at the TV without turning it on. You realize sometime around midnight that there is nobody in your entire life right now who knows where you are. The next morning, you write a check to a children's hospital for $5 million. Anonymous. You don't tell anyone. 3 weeks later, the local paper runs a story about a mystery donor. People speculate. Nobody guesses you. You read the article on your phone in your kitchen. You don't smile, but something in your chest loosens for a moment. Then you go back to making coffee. The years pass. You give away more than you keep, in the end. Most lottery winners go broke within 7 years. You don't. You're careful. You're quiet. You're alone. You build a small life in a small town. You read a lot of books. You go on long walks. You learn to cook. You date a few times, never seriously, never anyone you tell. You never marry. You never have children because by the time you're settled enough to want them, the math of trust has gotten too hard. Anyone who finds you is suspect. Anyone you find first will eventually find out. Your sister still calls every few months. The conversations are warm, but careful. Your mother visits twice a year. She walks through your big empty house and tells you it's beautiful. You hug her at the airport when she leaves. You watch her plane take off. You drive home alone. You're in your 50s now. You sit on your back porch on a summer evening with a glass of iced tea. The neighbors don't know you. The town doesn't know you. The world doesn't know you. You won $500 million. There's nobody to tell.